Everyone, and welcome to NPU Live. I'm Keri Rodriguez.
And I'm Tim Lankin.
Today is August 26th, 2020. Welcome to the program.
Hello, nice to see everyone today.
I want to start off this broadcast on a little personal note. Today, my family is saying goodbye to my beloved auntie who passed away on Friday. God bless her. She was 91 years old. But my whole family, we're social distancing. There's going to be a real quick in and out wake happening, funeral combination. This is one of a couple of funerals my family has gone through during the pandemic, but it's so weird and it's so hard. So I just want to send love to my whole family and to my Aunt Joan, who was just such a happy, wonderful, silly lady who we love so much. I have some mixed memories of my childhood, but she was a blessing, and her home was really a wonderful place. That she and my Uncle Bob didn't have any kids, so when we came and we're jumping on her sofa and playing with all her knickknacks and helping her make banana bread, she was horrified and filled with glee at the same time.
That's great.
So. I just loved her so much. She had a really distinct voice, always wore a pin that said love on it.
Nice.
And she was Canadian, which we have to mention because, we razzed her about it forever.
Yeah.
How she didn't understand us really because she was from Canada. But I hope she's resting in peace. She was such a joy to our family. Had a long, wonderful, beautiful life, and will always be a wonderful memory for me and so many in my family. So we love you, Aunt Joan, and so much love to all of my family. So I want to start there because I want to remember Aunt Joan today.
Absolutely.
So
you told me she showed up for everything, right?
Everything. She showed up literally, for the opening of your report card. She would be there and ready. And if you didn't invite her, she'd be mad. She'd be offended. Why didn't you invite me? Why didn't you?
Yeah, I showed up anyway. You might as well have invited me.
Why didn't you invite me? So she was always there for us and just filled with love and was such a special person. She worked for Reynolds Wrap for a very long time.
Yeah.
Too. So she always had those these are the things you remember about your aunt. These giant rolls of aluminum foil.
Nothing wrong with that.
And then I have a man in my life who's obsessed with aluminum foil. It was a sign from God, even in my youth.
I'm just saying, if I'm going to wrap something and I have plastic wrap or I have aluminum foil, I'm going with aluminum foil.
This man uses more aluminum foil than anybody I've ever met in my life.
Saves me from washing the Tupperware.
He also folds towels like a serial killer. But we'll talk about that another day.
I'm trying.
Oh my God. Like I've never seen the things you learn in the pandemic about your partner. He's banned. He's not allowed to fold towels anymore.
Well, someone has to. Just saying.
Well, don't worry. I think I unfolded all your towels and refolded them the other day. But we'll have that fight later.
Was wondering who did that. I had a feeling.
A serial killer. Honest to God. It's more like a ball than a fold. I don't know. Anyway.
They have to fit in the closet. I have a small closet.
Yeah, they're not fitting like that. Mashing them up into balls, and then you take them. Oh my God.
Anyway, we also want to send love out to the amazing activists on the ground right now.
That's right. The Minnesota Parents Union, Kulia Pringle, and all of her comrades out there working very hard on the ground. Yeah. Today is Internet for All Day. They are launching the Logged Out campaign. So they won't be watching today, and actually we'll be doing some logging outs soon.
That's right. So
tell us, give us.
So it's an action. It's a day of action because while we move toward remote learning, we have to remember there are 15 million children right now in the nation who do not have internet access. So what this is a call for internet companies, specifically Comcast, to step up and provide and help your communities and provide them with internet access. So this is a day of action in Chicago, Kentucky, Atlanta, Philadelphia, as we said, St. Paul and Minneapolis, and Washington, D.C. as well.
and the National Parents Union standing in solidarity with all of our friends, all of our delegates, all of our affiliates across the country who are participating. We're providing support on the ground in the best way we know how, helping to dispatch some resources down to make sure that the parents who want to be heard
That's right.
are being heard, and they're going to be heard through a brand new PA system.
Yeah, they will be. What better way?
Don't mess with us, because we're buying bullhorns up in here. The other thing that we want to make very, very clear is, as always, disproportionate impact on low income Black and brown kids that always get screwed because that's the way systemic racism works. Just so proud of Kulia really leading this charge.
That's right.
Nationally, like taking it to Comcast, running it all the way up the flagpole to the CEO's office, causing a ruckus, and that's what we need to do.
If anyone's ever spoken to Kulia,
I don't know
she's
why
tough.
Just give her what
She's tough already. Now she's going to have a big ass Boise loudspeaker.
Yeah. Well, you could hear her anyway, but now she's going to have a big.
That's what I'm saying.
But she's doing an incredible job. Yeah. I don't know why anybody messes with her at all. Nope. But she's got a whole posse, and we're the posse. We're all across the country. What you got for us?
So it's hashtag Internet for All.
And by the way, it would only take 1% of the defense budget for 1 year to provide internet service and Chromebooks to every child in America. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's only about $17 billion.
That's it.
Yeah, which is short money when you talk about the entire GDP of the United States. So, holy crap. Yeah. We could get this done if we wanted to. So now we have to make folks want to do it. Speaking of that.
Yes.
It is August 26th. Want to bring to your attention to the fact that many parents across the nation have no idea what school is going to be looking like.
No,
we don't really know.
Don't you know?
No.
Who your kids' teachers are?
I have no idea who my kids' teachers are.
I don't either.
Yeah, don't know. We think school is starting the 18th, but that's subject to union bargaining. So who really knows? When they're going, what their day will look like, what my day would look like, what my work schedule is going to look like so I can feed these kids and keep a roof over their head. No idea, because union bargaining and negotiation happening all over the place right now. I'm actually hearing, I'm going to read to you just a couple of things I'm getting from local school committees here. Some of the requests being made by the school committee, this one in a district where, we're talking about the per pupil expenditure, well upwards of $20,000. I'm not going to say exactly how much because it might give away the district I'm talking about, but lots of money being spent per pupil. They feel like they could get it done for early childhood kids to partially open, but they can't even have a conversation about it. The union demanding that we have brand new facilities being built literally during the pandemic right now, and literally calling for a complete shutdown with as little as 2 hours of remote instruction live instruction being provided by educators per week. So the bottom line is, it's the end of summer. We have done our best work trying to juggle kids and, keeping them happy. We have been everything to them. We have been teachers. We have been therapists. We have been playmates. We have been everything in the hopes that our districts, our educators would get it together, because this spring we know was a hot mess. There was a lot of grace given to the systems, given to educators saying, listen, they're all trying to figure it out. But the fact of the matter is, once again, parents and families are put in the situation where we hold all of the responsibility. We're supposed to jump when we're told to jump, and just ask how high and where do you want us and how can we best help you do your job. We have not been a part of co-creating this process. Nope. And now here we are. We're in the last week of August. We're waiting for teacher assignments. We're waiting for schedules to figure out when our kids are expected on Google Classroom, waiting to hear how our schedules will be upended. We have districts threatening to report families to the Department of Children and Families if they can't show up when this schedule is implemented, whenever it is, because typically they just drop it, and then the next week you're supposed to pivot your entire universe to fit this schedule. I don't know how this helps out families and parents who are already stressed out, filled with anxiety, really concerned about the mental health of their kids. Like, that does not help to make sure the fabric of our families is strong right now. So we got a lot of questions, and these are the questions we're going to start asking. What is a school day and classroom schedule going to actually look like from a student's perspective?
Right.
Like, tell us.
Right.
Like, we need to know what the plan is to decide whether or not we want to opt into that. Like, a lot of us have been given a couple of options. If you want in-person, some people picking out, Catholic schools, private schools.
Yeah.
Some people being offered what I call the hopeful hybrid. I don't know. And then the fully remote option, which requires a lot of coordination on the part of families. If you can't tell me what remote is going to look like, how am I supposed to make a choice as to whether or not that's the right option
exactly.
for our kids? And what we've been presented is you go all remote, or you opt in for the remote transition to hybrid. You have to pick one or the other. You have to pick it for the whole year.
Right.
There's no transitioning back and forth. And if you pick the fully remote, then you're going to do the remote learning company with no access to a local teacher.
Right.
And if you don't, then you get some access. I don't know. It's very confusing. But I don't even know how you make a choice when you have no information.
No.
So I got a lot of questions here. How often will teachers be expected to log on? Who's going to be tracking it? What's going to happen when a teacher doesn't log on or show up? Because we're hearing from parents and families across the country, while there's a lot of finger pointing about parents. I personally, Miles, his teacher didn't show up for weeks on end. We didn't hear from her. There was no interaction. Then we heard she was out. We got a substitute for a week, and then it was a mess. So
Dylan's first grade teacher is on, her face is on a milk card right now. I haven't seen her for 8 months.
I don't know. So, like, what's going to happen there? Like, where's the accountability, the responsibility? How, like, I want to know that information. How much live instruction and interaction with teachers are our kids going to get every day? Like, I know that everybody's having a lot of fun saying the words synchronous and asynchronous, because we have this need to create terms that exclude parents from the conversation and make them in edu jargon. So it really makes it tough for parents to know what the hell you're talking about. How often is my kid going to see a live teacher? Facts. Like, just tell me what it is. How many times a week is my kid going to be sitting with his teacher, whether it's with a full class or just with the teacher? Tell me. That's information I want to know. And if teachers are only expected, and this is something, again, hearing across the country, that teachers are only expected to deliver about 45 minutes of live instruction a couple times a week. What are they doing the rest of the time? Like,
hopefully learning Zoom.
What is happening? That's another question.
Don't get me started.
Will elementary school teachers, especially, be expected to check in with kids? Will students have time with teachers directly? What does that look like? How much contact will middle and high school kids have with their teachers? We want to know this information. How often will teachers be expected to check in with parents and family members who are facilitating remote education? We've been asking, where is the professional development for parents? Like, if K-6 kids are doing remote learning, like, there are a lot of parents and family members who have been survivors of the public education experience. They need some help. What is that looking like? These are the real life questions we need answered. It is the last week of August. People, get it together. Instead of trying to turn yourself into an infectious disease expert, do the thing which is allegedly educating children and serving families. So, like, what is the deal? What is the deal? this is all turned into raw politics.
That's right.
And who's going to assert their control. It has very little, it seems, to do with what children are going to get, how families are going to survive. It's all this like chest puffing at the table, like, we're not like this is the other thing too. And I would love to hear from families on this. We have a lot of educators who are refusing to go into empty classrooms to do the remote learning from the empty classroom. I don't understand that.
What's up with that?
I don't get that. What it feels like to me, because we didn't have teachers showing up, because we were getting so little access to actual educators, like they need to be in the classroom so that like they can coordinate with other educators, they can coordinate with the principal, with administrators, so that we all have an understanding that this is what remote instruction is going to look like. You don't get COVID-19 just by being in a classroom.
No.
You get COVID-19 from being in a classroom with too many other people.
Right.
Like, and no safe social distancing, all of these things. So if you're an educator, I don't understand why you couldn't.
Well, plus I think it shows a consistent background and environment for the children too.
And you have everything you need.
And nothing personal. Again, things are tough in the spring, but I don't want my kid to watch the teacher who's sitting in their bed, like giving out instruction. Nothing personal. I know the spring was rough. Didn't need to see it. Don't need to see it in the fall. You've had 6 months.
Teachers in Florida like showing up on Zoom without a shirt on, like in special ed classrooms. So
yeah, I got nothing for that. I don't take my shirt off here, so I don't know what's up with that.
So I don't know. Parents and families have a lot of questions, and again, it's the end of August.
Yep.
And all we see is a lot of districts right now, at least here in the Commonwealth. I'm hearing it anecdotally from across the country. A lot of folks kicking the can down the road. A lot of people saying, well, now we're going to open the end of September. Well, the first marking period, the first quarter is going to be remote, or we'll figure it out, but we're not going to start it until the beginning of October. What are you talking about, the beginning of October?
Yeah.
Like
by then you've had 6 months to plan.
Get your acts together.
Right.
Are you kidding? You've had so much time. You've had so much time.
Literally half a year.
What are you doing? And why aren't you communicating it to us?
We've been in this hell for half a year.
I know.
Jesus Christ.
God. Well, that's why we're here celebrating our 87th anniversary together.
Happy anniversary, babe.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, so that's kind of what we're thinking about. God bless everyone, because I had a chance to write again last night. You know what happens when that gets started.
Oh yeah, you're all fired up.
I'm ready to drop some bombs.
Yeah, you are.
Because I got questions.
Kaboom.
And I'm looking for answers. And you know me, I'm gonna get them.
You're gonna get them. Ask this question. So if my kid is in an IEP, okay, and he's been working with the same pullout teacher for 4 years, but now he goes totally remote, is he gonna lose access to his previous pullout teachers that he's been working with for 4 years?
I don't know.
Anyway, if you have,
I got to say one other thing.
Do it. Yeah, you do.
The other thing that is comedy gold. I had a little throwdown with some of the folks from early childhood, the early childhood department, who oversees daycares, licensing, all of that kind of stuff. Some big talk, big threats, homeschool pods and micro schools, and all these folks. They need to be licensed, and we need to know who's watching these kids during the day. Like if you're bringing somebody in to literally just facilitate remote learning so that they can log on to Zoom, so you can work. Your family can continue to eat, and you don't lose your entire existence while they are threatening to call DCF on you if you don't show up in the Zoom. So like it's really it's like catch-22 here. So they some big tough talk. Yeah. These things need to be licensed. And of course you want to be safe. Of course you want to be safe. You want to make sure you know who the person is. It's a trusted person. Very different when you get into a homeschool situation too, or if you're having somebody, do remote learning for you, just facilitating that. That's another thing. What we did in our house, we hired a special ed para who has experience you know, we've got 6 kids, 4 on IEPs. Like she's experienced with kind of running. She runs a tight ship too.
I'm not messing with her.
Real tight ship.
Like if she told
I
me,
love
Tim,
it.
stop folding the goddamn towels. I'm not like, if she told me that, I would do it. She already told me stop putting stuff away. I won't
She's
put anything
like,
away.
stop putting stuff away. You're a mess. You don't know what you're doing. Stop it.
Whatever.
But you know, a lot of tough talk about whether or not these folks should be licensed, all of this stuff. You know, if we're going to play this game about threatening licensure, you know, really infringing on parent rights, you know, spent on learning, time on learning, as they refer to it in the education world. That's the amount of time during the day where you actually have to spend engaged with like an academic pursuit. And there's really clear definitions of like what qualifies for time spent on learning, because like there are certain metrics in every state. Like here, I think it's like 5.2 hours you have to actually spend engaged in an academic pursuit, and like what those things are. And we were fighting breakfast after the bell when we were trying to feed 150,000 hungry kids across Massachusetts. One of the main pushbacks is, well, if we're feeding kids in the classroom, it's taking away from time spent on learning. And we can't lose a single minute because there are regulations, it's state law, all of this stuff. So we have also said, friends, time spent on learning, if we want to get real technical, we want to start holding everybody accountable. Accountability is for everyone. And time spent on learning is actionable, my friends. And if you're going to really start cracking down on parents who are just trying to survive, I'm talking about, like, we just handed out $200,000 in homeschool pod and micro school grants, which is the fancy word for what we've been doing a lot of forever in low income Black and brown communities, which is called resource sharing. And just trying to, you know, get somebody to watch the kids so you can go to work and survive and maintain, you know, some semblance of education. If you're going to hold us accountable for that, we're going to be holding you accountable for time spent on learning.
Well,
yes,
you
are. Every single minute. We will audit every single district, and we will go down to the minute to see if we are getting what is on the books. So if we want to play hardball,
learning,
we'll play hardball.
learning does not include, and this is for my former Everett students out there, you know who you are. If you educate in Everett, you probably watch Napoleon Dynamite an average of 37 times a year. That does not count as learning.
No.
That doesn't count as learning, guys.
And, you know, the social emotional kumbaya, which is important, but doing that 3 times a week for 45 minutes is not going to teach you how to.
Not going to cut it.
So we're, you know, accountability is for everyone, and we're ready to have a real conversation.
That's right.
So we welcome it.
And if you want to have a conversation with us, please send your tips, your feedback, whatever you want to send to us. Your gifts. To info@npunion.org. That's info@npunion.org. You can also go to nationalparentsunion.org and become a member, either as an individual, as an organization, or as a business. Please help us with this.
We want to hear from all of you. We want to see what you're seeing. What does your schedule look like if you have one? Are you frustrated? All of that. So
that's right.
It is now time for us to empower parents.
Let's empower some parents.
Make them prepared.
Let's
so
do
we're
it.
welcoming our friend Mira Brown from Austin, Texas. She's the head of Prepared Parents. Preparedforsuccess.org is their website. So we'll bring her on. It's so wonderful to see your face, Mira. How are you today?
I'm good. It's so good to see you guys. It's been way too long.
I know. So how has your August been? It has been long here.
It was, I think the last time we talked, I was all into my joyful July. Not so joyful. I gave it a good shot though. Not so joyful. August was pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie. We had a lot going on here. COVID got kind of close to home. And yeah, it ended up being just, I'm happy it's almost over. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. I'm actually looking forward, as much as September 1st terrifies me that it's next week, I am definitely looking forward to it being over, August.
So what changes for you in September? Like I was kind of hopeful, like as this progressed, I feel, oh, well, you know, we're going into May or we're going into June. Ooh. Now I'm just like, okay, what's next? Like,
absolutely nothing changes. It's just another month. It's funny. I was reflecting last night that as I was like thinking about what I wanted to talk to you guys about and all of that. I was like, oh my gosh, this feels like March 16th again. And I was looking at it, and this is our 49th episode together. And sadly, we're right, you know, like school is starting, we're going right back into sort of remote world. And in some ways, some things have changed. And in many ways, everything you just said, right? The struggle is real for so many parents. And so I took a moment to sort of take a deep breath, like last night, be like, oh my goodness, like August 26th, how is this possible? So yeah, it's we started school. August 19th was the first day of school here in Austin. For my kids in my district. We're in a district right next to Austin ISD. I think they start into next week or September 8th, something like that. They also decided to push it out. Exactly. We are fully remote right now. Part of the hard part of August was like having everything you were saying. You know, we didn't know what to do. I personally knew that a pod or something like that wasn't just the right decision for us personally. And part of that is that we just had a really rough year last year with our son. You know, he got diagnosed, he fought for his IEP, and just and I just the thought, and in that we experienced some like real just judgment and kind of nastiness from parents in the community and in his classroom. And I just like I think I'm still coming off that. So the idea of like trying to figure out how to, I think it's wonderful for everyone else. They need to do what they need to do. But for me personally, it was like, the thought of it, trying to organize, and I was like, no, I want to worry about myself, my family, and my son. And then I felt so selfish. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm only work, but like, I was like, I can't do that. So that's off the table. And then similarly, I was like looking, they came out with our remote schedule, and I was like, okay, so it's asynchronous in the morning. And then synchronous, he's with his first grade teacher on Zoom in the afternoon. And I was like, what am I going to do with him all morning? Like, what am I going to do all morning? We have to work, my husband and I. So we ended up choosing a remote learning camp. Basically, it's the local preschool / daycare / camp provider for the summer. Got in on the game and was like, all right, we'll run basically like bring them here, drop them off at 8 a.m., pick them up at 4 o'clock. We will basically run camp in the morning and facilitate them getting on their Zooms in the afternoon. It's not tutoring, it's nothing like that, but it's a safe place for him to go with a cohort of kids. They stick together. So we went for it. So that's where he is right now, which is why the house is so quiet.
How is that working so far for you? Kind of like a micro school concept.
Yeah, it is kind of like a micro school, except that there's no, like, they're not teaching. They're literally, it's camp. I mean, I'm so appreciative to them. I certainly don't want to try to, but I mean, in some ways, I know that he is as safe as you can be right now. He is not home. And I feel awful as a parent saying that, but he is not home. Because when he's home, it's really hard, as we all know. It's really hard. I'm bored. I'm this. I want this. I want. It's just constant. And he's the youngest in the group of 10 kids, so he's with second and third graders. He's the only first grader in a group of 10. I think he's having a hard time sort of connecting with other kids. And he's, I love the little guy, but he's still learning how to be social, how to interact with other kids. That's something we're working on with him. It doesn't come very easily to him. I think he's struggling there. I'm sure the third grader is like, who is this? But he, like what do I know? I know if he gets on his Zoom. And I know if he's had fun that day. And I don't know, right now, I'm just like, I think that's the best I can do right now. Personally, I am very blessed in that I am in contact with the special education coordinator. She will call me and let me know. She called me last week and let me know how he was doing. So I know that there's a connection being made there. But if he's learning anything off of the Zoom that he's on for 2 hours in the afternoon, I don't know. So.
Well, and I honestly, I think that's the best that we can kind of do as parents right now. you know, I think that it's our job as the adults in the situation to figure out, like, once things return to some semblance of normal, like what education should look like, how we reimagine it. You know, there are people who know how to catch kids up. Like, frankly,
Mhm.
like there are some charter schools in Boston, the Brook Charter
Yep.
School. I mean, that's able to make leaps and bounds with kids who have been chronically underserved from some of the most difficult socioeconomic conditions you can imagine. And there's secret sauce there, and the secret sauce is getting the right kids in front of master teachers that for the right amount of time, and it's our job to figure out how to make that happen for them. But when you're in the middle of a pandemic, you know, thinking about, like we're always talking about, the fabric of the family.
Yeah.
You know, learning loss, it's our job to figure out how to figure that out, and how to make it right for them. And I think we can. I think that's possible. I think, you know, the knowledge is there. I think actually there's a lot we already know.
Yep.
It's more about the politics and the political will of being able to implement what we know actually works, and
Yeah.
putting the needs of children ahead of the wants of adults. And that's for us as grown-ups to figure out.
Yeah.
But if we destroy the fabric of the family, and you know, we're talking about something that you can't repair. You're talking about like the destruction of communities. You're talking about a longer term impact. Like, this is going to have a long term impact. It's going to be weird. You know, it's going to have success in some places. It's going to be difficult in other places. But I got to say, if we're not concerned about families and how mentally they're getting through, and how we're supporting them, we're supporting kids and parents so that we have healthy home environments, like we've got much bigger problems
Right.
down the road that we're going to be
Yeah,
facing.
we had to, my husband and I haven't had a lot of time to really connect with each other and talk to each other very much lately, but like we had to sit down and and truthfully be like, what, we are very blessed and we are very lucky, and we recognize that. And if I had to keep Gabe home, we would figure it out. Like, we would just figure it out. But the truth of the matter is, like, I don't actually think it was healthy for him to be home anymore, because one, he is behind. Last year was a really tough year. He is behind, and stop. We will figure that out. And it is really important for his development that he's with kids right now. Like, really, I talked to his therapist. Like, it is very important for him to be interacting socially and practicing that and working on that. And we saw like a real regression over the last 6 months, you know, of being home. And we just weren't a good pair. Oh my gosh, I looked back at last spring and like, I'm his mom, but I can't, like, he and I just did this, and I tried every tool in the tool belt, like, every single one of them that I came up with.
You have the whole toolbox.
Like, every single one of them. And I think I just had to, like, my husband, I kept being like, no, I'm his mom. I have to make, and my husband just kept being like, well, why? Like, we can figure out something out, like, what, you know? And so for us, it was like a very personal sort of realization that maybe like he needed to go to this camp, he needed to be there, and I think he will be mentally, right, and socially stronger. Academically, I'm still worried, but he's going to be, you know, I'm very lucky in that I can say he's going to be fine. But I can't, like, we're hearing from parents, I mean, just the stress and the worry and it hasn't gone away. We talked about this in the spring. We'd hoped by the fall that somehow there would be support systems, there would be a social net, there would be something to sort of catch parents, hold on to us, help us. And it's not there. So to your point, communities are gathering, churches, religious, community organizations. I mean, people are coming. And in July, we started to talk about this, how much we needed to do that. And we were like, where is this? Why is this not happening? And I'm happy that it is happening, but we're having to do it ourselves.
Right.
You know, and there's just still such a frustration. And then in my community, there's this, oh my gosh, parents are just at each other's throats right now, because Texas is just a crazy state, but we went down to stage 3, which is great. Our cases are decreasing, which means that 25% of kids can actually go into a school building. And there is just a nasty fight between parents in this community right now. Everyone should be in a school, but kids first, teachers first, this first, that first, and it's just it's just not the right conversation to be having. And so parents fighting, you have communities fighting. And so I'm trying to just sort of stay the course and think about Gabriel and think about what we can do. But we actually, you know, he got into the 25%. I mean, gosh, it feels like an apple. But we said no, because to do in building, it ends at 11 a.m. So I was like, what am I going to do with my kid after 11 a.m.? like, I leave my job and pick up my...
Like, what is that?
Right.
Like, what is that in, like, that
point
does
of
that,
that?
how does that even qualify as in building?
It's so the teacher can teach in person in the morning and then transition to teach the other half of first grade remotely in the afternoon. But then what does my child do as a working parent? What do I do at 11 a.m.? And so as much as I want him to be with his teacher face to face, whatever that looks like this year, masks and all, like we were just like, we can't make that work. So we're going to keep him remote. So it just, to your point, parents are making really hard decisions. Synchronous, all of these terms are being thrown at us. There's so much noise. Then there's the noise of, what do I do? What program do I use? How do I support my kid? How do I mean, it is so much once again coming at us, and we are just wading through.
And everybody dug in and determined to only speak the language that they're comfortable with.
Right.
Only use the things, the tactics they're comfortable with, not taking into consideration the context. It's a mess. But Mira, we only have you for a few more minutes.
Sorry.
I want to get to your tip, because you are actually developing, and it's not so much a tip, but it's news about what you guys are developing to actually prepare parents, empower them as they kind of embark on this. So you give us a taste on what's happening.
Yeah. So we have one thing that's live right now, one thing that's coming in mid-September. So what's live right now is essentially, you're going to hear it from everybody, but a back to school guide. And the key to that really was, we had parents over the summer basically say, we loved your tips, but there's like 70 of them now. I don't even know where to start with them. I'm restarting. What do I do? So we went and we took the ones that parents have found most helpful, and we essentially put them together into sort of 4 different sections. Map it out, start well, find your stride, power through. And all that actually means is we are going to ebb and flow through so many different scenarios this year with learning. And so the idea being, you can go in there, grab what you need in that moment, whether it's how do I motivate my kid? How do I plan my space? How do I set goals? How do I support my kid who, doesn't want to even go on Zoom? Everything you need in one place that you can go to right now, hopefully sort of packaged together in a way that's intuitive and makes sense and is sort of convenient and feels attainable, because I think there's a lot out there. So that's number 1. So please, you can go to that right from our website. The other thing that I'm really excited about is we had parents ask us, like, we are so thankful for, which I appreciate and humbled that parents are finding something so helpful, but we're so thankful for sort of the at home. But now home and school has really, right, like that's merging for this year. And so what are the projects I can be doing? What is the project-based learning and all those things that you've been talking about? So we are going to launch mid-September, essentially like a monthly box, for lack of a better term. And every month, free, no cost to parents, you can grab this. It will have a project, like a rigorous, but really hopefully fun and engaging project. It will be that your kids can do for the entire month. It will end in sort of a celebration of learning. Your kids will be doing like really kind of career-oriented type tasks, relevant. Our first one is probably going to be maybe on the election, but really more about finding your voice and what is your voice and how do you use that voice. And so the idea being that we want to be able to sort of connect parents to like the academic side and the school side, and what are the things that I can be focusing on right now, because I don't know what's coming from my school and I want my kid to learn and I want them to stay on track. And so how do we do that? So that's coming mid-September, and then we'll be sort of every month essentially after that, where we'll be able to sort of push that out to everyone. And again, you can use it to complement school. It'll be grades 4 through 9. And it's for mixed age groups, right? So it's delivered, it's written and done for non-educators. Able to deliver to your kids and work with your kids. And so I think that's the key.
For folks who are not experts.
Right.
And that's what we need right now.
Right.
This is what we're talking about.
We're in charge, like we're doing the work with our kids, and we want the same quality, right? The same quality sort of curriculum and things, but everything I'm finding is hard to understand, and how do I deliver it, and what do I do with my kid, and it feels overwhelming. And so we're trying to sort of meet what parents are saying, which is give us more, and make it for the parent, the YMCA community organizer, right, who may not be an educator but may have 10 kids sitting in front of them, right, to enrich the experience. So that's
Really
our
amazing. And I like being able to have a website where we can direct parents when they've got a whole plethora of issues and they pop up
That's
and they're
right.
different from week to week. I like having a place to direct folks, a one-stop shop, saying, "Oh, Zoom problems.
There you go.
Oh, motivation problems. Oh, too much screen time." Like all of this kind of stuff, being able to
or only have 2 hours every day and you need to fill 3 to 4 more hours. Like, here's a cool project, and step by step exactly what you can be doing and how the kids can be working together or individually, right? Sort of make learning social again, connected again, cohesive, like make it make sense. And so yeah, that's our goal. And so I will share more, but it will all be available. Preparedparents.org. We are officially moving to preparedparents.org. Which
Great.
is also.
I love it. Well, Mira, so glad to see you. So glad your family's doing well, and we're looking forward to checking in with you as the entire site kind of blossoms and
Absolutely.
and those things launch in mid-September. So we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you both. Good to see you.
Good
See
to
you.
see you. Joining us from Austin, Texas, preparedforsuccess.org, preparedparents.org, which is what I was always saying forever at the beginning of this pandemic, and now they'll be at that website. So
Right.
lucky me.
And we'll be posting her tips, the compact version of her tips, on
As we
our
always
National
do.
Parents Union Facebook page.
Fantastic. So excited to welcome our next guest to the broadcast. He's from Transform Education Now, our friends out in Denver, Colorado, who have been with us before. We haven't talked to Nicholas before. I'm really excited to talk to him to find out what's happening on the ground for parents who are doing the critical job of really fighting for their kids in this moment, doing it in Denver. And so excited that Nicholas Martinez is joining us live this morning. Welcome, Nicholas. So glad to have you with us. Let's make sure he can hear us. Nicholas, can you hear us?
Now I can.
Okay, good. Little headphone malfunction. That happens to me all the time. Time.
You would think by 6 months into this, I would have figured out how to coordinate Zoom and my headphones. But
oh, you know what?
It's a whole new challenge for me. But
now 6 months.
Thank you for having me.
We anticipate it happening, and it ain't no thing when it does happen, right? So. But Nicholas, so glad to have you with us this morning, and we love the work that you're doing with parents in Denver right now. So first off, I just want to check in on you just as a human being. Like, it's all well and good. We can talk shop, we can get into it, but how are you doing just as a human? How are things going?
Well, I appreciate that, Keri. I think that's something that's often forgotten in this kind of Zoom, right? It's easy to get right to work, and I think we do need to do a better job of checking on each other as humans. Personally, I'm doing well. I'm one of the lucky ones, right? I still have a job. I'm still working from home. My fiance is working from home. My family has stayed healthy. Our extended family has stayed healthy. So we count our blessings every single day, and so I think we recognize, how lucky we are relative to other folks that we know and folks that we work with. But other than that, we're like everybody else, trying to make the best of a rough situation, trying to stay healthy, trying to keep our minds active and keep busy, doing house projects and picking up hobbies, things like that. How are you?
It's so funny. It's like I so identify with that because life moves so quickly in non-pandemic time. It moves super fast now too. I mean, relatively speaking, but like now we've taken on, like, we've stopped a little bit. We're like, oh, maybe we're going to move this around. How are we using this space? Like, when's the last time I actually sat down and used one of Mira's tips to do this mattering exercise with my kids? So at least there's, the things that are keeping us busy are maybe a little bit more important than the things that we were so busy with pre-pandemic, but it's different. And It is stressful. I mean, Tim and I, between the two of us, we got 5 little boys between 7 and 12. And, little boys don't slow down because it's a pandemic. They want to play, they want to run, they want to fight, they want to, imagine, they want to build forts. So it's just like there's constant motion going on here and trying to figure out, how to channel that little boy energy for good can be a struggle. So like that's, we come to this work from an honest place. Like we are parents, which is why we fight so hard for these kids anyway, but we are in the thick of it. So how are your parents doing? How's your community like? What's the temperature of folks, in your neck of the woods?
I think the best way to describe that is folks are doing their best to thrive, right? And that, I think folks recognize the challenge in front of them, listening to you and Mira talk about some of the struggles happening at home, and those are real. And families are resilient. Families and parents in particular haven't lost sight of what's important. And they, to your point about we are spending our time on things that are more important than maybe we used to. I think this pandemic has really put things in perspective for a lot of folks, both professionally and working. How do you spend your time in the day? How do you divide up your day in a meaningful way so that you are not losing out on family time, that you're still covering all your bases at work, things like that, that you're taking care of yourself. And I think families are hyper focused on what is actually the most important thing right now, and that's the well-being of their children, right? And the well-being of their children includes, is my kid learning? Is my kid enjoying life? Are they growing? Are they having some sort of social interaction? Are they having fun? Are they getting a chance to be kids? I think, children are growing up so fast these days, and through social media and things like that, seeing the world around them. We're asking little ones to be on Zoom meetings essentially for 4 or 5 hours a day. And I think that's challenging. And so I think families are hyper focused on that.
Let alone if you're a baby, like you're a little kid, like, some of these things that we ask our little people to do, like I'm always talking about breakfast after the bell and hungry kids, that's an example for me, pre-pandemic. Like if I'm hungry, you can't even talk to me, let alone teach me something. So it makes sense to feed kids. Now we're asking kids to sit on Zoom meeting. Like this is the longest Zoom meeting I can stand all day. Like me being out here for an hour, because I'm like, okay, let's even though I love the people I talk to, it's part of the reason why I got to talk to a couple people during the hour. It's like, oh God, you got to keep it moving. And asking our kids to sit and be engaged, and frankly, and I want to get into this with you, like a lot of our babies are getting, these Zoom meetings are a little half baked, and I'm not sure if what they're zooming into is what they need to be zooming into, because we're having to drag a lot of people into this, that adults that should be stepping up to the plate, who are kind of hemming and hawing about, I don't really want to do this, I don't know how to do it, laughing about not being able, like this. These are our kids' lives. I mean, my kids, like prime candidates for the school to prison pipeline. Like there's not a lot of room for error. Like, so it's not really about like, do we want to do this? We gotta do this. We gotta figure something out here.
Education for our communities was life and death before the pandemic. It mattered that much. Nothing's changed, right? The pandemic hasn't created inequities. It's just deepened them. It's widened that chasm. And I think, one of the heartbreaking things, but one of the positives coming out of this, right, if there can be a thing, is parents are as close to their learners as possible, right? Parents are in the classroom every single day. They're sitting right here while their kid is in class because they're working. And so they are seeing what's happening, and they are seeing, like you said, some of these half-baked Zoom meetings, these half-baked lessons. And, and I have a lot of empathy for educators. This is new. This is hard work. That doesn't mean that we get to give everybody a pass on this one, because this work matters so much for our little ones, for our kids. You don't get to do 12th grade over again just because there was a pandemic. Those kids are moving on to college, and there's going to be expectations for those children. And, you don't get 4th grade. You don't get the chance to learn how to read again just because you had to do it over Zoom. And I think it's going to be critical for parents.
like if you screw up fourth grade, where do I go for my refund? Like there is no refund. Like if my kid's not reading at grade, like the consequences are real. It's poverty, it's incarceration, it's death, you know, for underserving our kids. So this is not a joke, it's not a hobby, like this is not a concept, like this is life. And there are real consequences for these kids. And in this moment, like I know you're a former educator yourself. So I mean, like watching this, you know, especially middle school kids. I'm kind of revealing a little bit of your bio here. Former what? Middle school history teacher, right?
Middle school history teacher.
You know, that's tough work, you know, when they're all in front of you. But when they're on Zoom, it's really hard. But you know how necessary, especially history and civics and all that kind of stuff now, like, whew, like we are in a spot because of, you know, underserving our communities, you know, a lack of focus, all of those things. So, you know, talk to us as parents, because I think we need like some of that mindset shift here. And I got to tell you, like, I'm very frustrated. I know the parent community is incredibly frustrated. I'd love to hear what you're hearing from your parents too, but like, it feels like the grace period is over. Like, I have the expectation that educators, the systems, they should have their act together by now. Like, what's the deal? Like, how what are you telling your parents and your community to do to demand more or have the right expectations here?
Well, I think one of the things that we talk about a lot with our parent leaders is what are the expectations? What do your kids need, and where are they getting them and where are they not? You know, we actually have a number of schools in Denver who I think have stepped up to the plate and who saw this coming and who made decisions early on to say, like, we are going to serve our kids to a high degree because they recognize that. You know, they happen to be a number of charter schools here in Denver, stepped up to the plate and said, we're going to put together a high quality plan. We're going to make sure that our kids are learning, and we're not going to use this as an excuse. And I think those folks, you know, yes, they have some technical glitches, right? Like nobody can control Zoom, but what's happening on a virtual classroom is good, you know, and other families are asking, how do we get something like that? How do we, you know, access that? And I think the thing we have shared with families is, one, you have the right to demand that from your school, right? It doesn't matter where your kid goes to school. It is your right as a parent, as a taxpayer, to demand that your children are learning. And the second part is you have full control of your child's learning. You have full ability to go out and find what's better, right? So we actually have a pretty cool resource on our website. We call it the 180 days of learning. There's about 180 days of class in a normal school year. And we've broken down the Colorado standards and the Colorado learning goals to say, what should your kid be learning at each step of the way, right? So that you can sit in the classroom and say, oh man, this seems much too easy for my kid. What's going on here? And then you can really work with your teacher and push them to serve kids, and not just your kid, serve all of the kids in that classroom better. And if your kid is, you know, just a brilliant kid that's learning 3-4 grade levels above, you can go out and find resources to support your 6th grader who reads at a 9th grade level and start working on those 9th grade learning goals.
I love this. Like this is so critical. You know, and this is exactly what parents need. I can't wait to go to the website. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to try to spread it and see if other folks can replicate it in their states and hold it up as an example, because this is what we need. The only other example I found as powerful was at the beginning of the pandemic, where I think it was Indiana, the state chief in Indiana actually put out a little chart for parents that said, you know, just around like attention spans, like, because parents were going into this, you know, trying to set up, you remember all those schedules we were trying to set up, like we're trying to do this because, you know, frankly, I'm going to say it, a lot of charter schools were able to pivot quickly. Those of us in traditional district schools, we got left with nothing for about 5 to 6 weeks. We had to figure out our own stuff before public school teachers or traditional public school teachers were willing to engage in remote learning. We'll leave that to another day. But, you know, the state of Indiana, I found this chart just because my homegirl is one of the heads of the empowerment zone in South Bend. And she's like, girl, look at this. And it was literally, you know, expectations around attention. Because I'm sitting down with my kids and I'm like, all right, I went to the Great Schools website. You're in 1st grade. You better sit down and do these sheets. And he'd get up after 10 minutes. He's like, I'm all set. I don't want to do it. I was like, no, on the schedule that I found on the internet, you're going to sit here for 45 minutes. I didn't know as a parent that like my baby can't sit for longer than 10 minutes. Like that's, and even 10 minutes is a long time to be engaged in like a worksheet. And it's about 90 minutes across the entire school. Like, I don't know that as a parent. I need to know that. I'm not an educator, but now I'm expected to facilitate education and be an active part of a team after being excluded for so long. Like, we need this stuff. We need to know.
And I think the other thing too is we, at the start of the pandemic, we created a digital kind of Slack channel, right? It's a Slack. We use Slack as on our team, but we thought that it could be useful for families. And so, if your school is doing something that's out of this world, great. You have the ability to then share those resources with, 500, 600 families in your community, and folks can pick and choose and pull stuff. So, the scheduling stuff, like, we had families posting their schedules and other folks saying, well, this didn't work, but I like this piece to it, sharing activities. We got some great educators on our channel, sharing tools, resources, projects. We got librarians on there sharing appropriate books. And, if your kid is into this type of stuff and reads at this level, here you go. And I think, that piece of this is unique as well in this, is the ability to really share resources outside of school boundaries, right? It doesn't matter if you're in a suburban district, if you're in one of our Denver public schools, if you're doing homeschooling, you get your hands on some good resources, share it, right? And that Slack channel has been exciting to see that happen.
So I want to ask you this final question, because you are so connected with these parent leaders and you're watching like all of this parent power blossom. This is exactly, it's kind of funny in this moment. Like, now we have all the options. You had this conversation with us a year ago. You got people, especially low-income Black and brown folks, we're not smart enough to make our own choices. We're not smart enough to have a peer-to-peer discussion with educators about what's right for our kids. Like, none of this, right? And now the world is at our feet because they don't know what to do, so they're leaving all the options to parents. You want remote, you want hybrid, you want only you know what's best for your children or what's best for your family. And we're here to say we've always known. We've always known what's best. But now that we're in this moment, what I'm finding across the country is that, it is an emotional moment for parents, because when you're sitting and this is kind of in your face and you're in the class, you're in the classroom because classroom is in your living room, and you find out that your kid, is not at grade level or doesn't know how to read or isn't where it's supposed to be, or their teacher's not showing up, or you've got to hold a teacher accountable because you're not seeing that progress that should be demonstrated because you have the tools to see the underserving of your child. It can be really emotional because again, those consequences kind of hang over us. Like, we know what happens if you don't get a good education, and it's not good. It's not good. And like all a parent wants, we're not here just for graduation day, we're here for life. And it's the hope that if we do this right for our kids, that our kids are going to have a beautiful life, and we're going to have these wonderful, happy grandbabies, and everything's going to be easier. So like, when you start to see this in your living room and how your kid is struggling, it can be very emotional. And again, just bringing it back to the fabric of our families, like, how what are you seeing? Like, are you seeing folks struggle with that? Are they finding power in standing up and fighting and saying, you know what, I'm not going to just accept this. We're going to organize. We're going to hold the system accountable. What has that energy been like for your families?
I think as an organizer, we call it code rage, right? People are recognizing the challenges in front of them. They are seeing the inequities play out in their babies, and people are not happy, right? And that's to put it peaceful, just to keep it, parent friendly or kid friendly on this language here. Families are asking the right questions. What has gone on up until this point? What are you going to do to fix this? How are you going to include me in this process? Because I know my kid best. And then how are we going to measure that? I think this pandemic has led to a lot of walkbacks of data and measurements and accountability and folks knowing data-driven education. We're walking all that back as a sector, and parents are saying, no, that is not acceptable. I want to know progress monitoring. I want to know that whatever you're putting in front of my kid, whether it's in person, hybrid, or on Zoom, is helping. It's going to make progress. And folks, like I mentioned, are inside the classroom every day, and they are seeing that, and they are pushing families, they are pushing schools, they are pushing systems. And I think we are only going to see that grow. We saw it happen very, very quickly in the spring. We've had a number of conversations over the summertime that have been centered around how do we make this actually work, and what, because this needs to be better, right? This may be what we have now, but we're going to go back to a system that was underserving our kids at some point. How do we make that better? How do we make right now better? And families are asking the right questions. They're talking to each other, and they are making phone calls, and they are showing up in ways that, you know, frankly, I haven't seen before. And I am excited to be a part of that. And I think that's how we change this system, is by those most affected making the most noise and really coming to the table with solutions, which they have, because like you mentioned, parents have always known what's best for their kids. It's just that now folks maybe are more willing to listen.
Oh, now they have to, because they don't know what to do. So they put it on us is what it feels like. But we love you guys. We love your work. We think it's incredible. Anything that we can do to help, you know, let us know. Like we got bullhorn money. Like we're ready, and we're fired up about parents that are ready to take to the streets or hold folks accountable and fight for their kids. Like, and just really inspired by what you guys are doing. And we're so appreciative that you take the time to come on with us and share what you're doing. It inspires other people across the country that this work is possible and necessary, and that it has to happen right now. And this is a critical time for us. So we're just so grateful that you joined us this morning from Colorado.
Well, thank you for having me. And likewise, you know, we couldn't do this without all of us. And this is going to take all of our effort collectively to do this, because what's happening in Massachusetts matters to those of us in Denver.
Amen. Nicholas Martinez joining us from Denver, Colorado. So grateful. We love Transform Education. Now, when the 10 parents roll up, they're generally more than 10. There's a lot. And they're coming for you, and they're coming for equity. So we're so grateful for all of their work and love having them as a member of our clique and our founding delegates. So,
That's right.
guys, thanks so much for being with us this morning. We're really grateful that you came by to share in this parent conversation. We'll be back again on Friday.
Can't wait.
For more fun.
Friday fun day.
Again, we want your input. We want your ideas. We want your thoughts. We want your solidarity. Tell us we're not the only crazy parents in America.
That's right. We're not.
Please. We can't be, right?
We're all in this together.
Oh, we're all in this together.
If we were the only crazy parents in American March, we're not the only crazy ones now.
Yeah, we're all going slowly crazy. But, you know, we're going to stand up and fight together. That's the work that we do. And we're so glad that you're with us this morning. We'll see you on Friday for more fun and parent frivolity. I don't know. What are we calling this?
And if you want to be part of this frivolity, go to the National Parents Union website and join us at nationalparentsunion.org. That's nationalparentsunion.org.
All right. We'll see
Thanks
you
a lot,
then.
everyone.
Bye now.
Bye.